Hello and welcome to my very first video. Um, in celebration for the upcoming release of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, which looks amazing, I thought I would put my own ranking list of all the Godzilla movies out there for whoever may be interested. This video was mainly inspired by 7th Street Productions, so go ahead and check him out. I'll put a link in the description to his video. I did have a script for this video, but I ended up touching on pretty much everything that I felt was wrong or right about every movie on this list. And as you can imagine, that took way more time than I thought it would. So I'm doing this unscripted now. I'll just be breezing through my opinions on these movies and just give you my general thoughts on them. Yeah. Let's get started. And as you can imagine, there will be a few spoilers ahead. I don't know how many, but I'm pretty sure I will end up spoiling something. So this is your warning. If you don't want to be spoiled, then leave now. The first movie is Godzilla's Revenge at number 34. Are we even surprised? I've seen a couple people who say that this movie is underrated and it's not meant to be taken seriously, and I get that, but that doesn't make it any more enjoyable to watch. You all know the problems with it, the excessive amounts of stock footage, Gabara being the worst monster to ever be created, this kid, main character, being annoying, just excessively annoying. But yeah, there's not really much else to say about this. Number 33, King Kong vs. Godzilla. I was pretty disappointed with this, because, you know, it's King Kong versus Godzilla. I was expecting something pretty amazing for the time, and I guess this was amazing for the time, but I don't see it. It was just kind of boring and stupid in too many places for me to enjoy watching it. I don't understand why King Kong now has lightning powers, but sure, I guess that's fine. Yeah, I think that's all I can say about it. There's just too many stupid moments, and the fighting's not that great. Yeah, I just didn't really like it. Number 32, Son of Godzilla. I think I dislike this more than most people, but I haven't really seen it put up high on anyone's list that I can remember anyway. I haven't watched that many lists recently, but yeah, the main problem I have with this movie is just Godzilla's design. It is not nice to look at. He looks really stupid in this movie. And Minya is really, really annoying. I've never liked Minya. Even in Final Wars, he was just annoying. He has his moments of being cute, but not very many of them. But yeah, that's all. It's just not that fun to watch, in my opinion. Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster would have been better as a King Kong movie, and I think most of us would agree on that. But that's not what we got. for copyright issues, I assume. Yeah, the sea monster, Ebera. He does not last very long for being in the title of the movie. So there's problem number one. Mothra is kind of thrown in there for reasons. I mean, I know why she was in this movie, but I don't know, it just kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. And then the vulture scene was just pointless. We all know that. Number 30, Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. Godzilla was already preachy enough with the first movie. And there are different levels of preachy before it starts to get annoying. Godzilla, the original Gojira, I think that movie is the best example of a message through film gone right. The Smog Monster, you know, pollution is a problem, I get that. But I don't know, it was just really annoying how it kept shoving it in your face. And just the movie in general is just kind of boring and slow. Like, especially with the fight scenes. It takes forever for anything substantial to happen in any fight scene in this movie. Yep, it's just boring. Godzilla Planet Eater. I recently got Netflix, so I was able to watch, like, all of them back to back without having to wait for the next release. This is by far the worst of the trilogy. It is majorly disappointing for any Godzilla fan. What you see right now, the poster for King Ghidorah, King Ghidorah is not supposed to be Parallax. That's just not what he is. And, you know, of all the monsters that were teased for this trilogy, most of them only show up in the first scene, the prologue of the first movie. Only 3 of them actually make it into, like, anything substantial. Mechagodzilla, who we'll talk about later, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah was just really disappointing. I don't have a problem with anyone's religion, but I really don't like when it's shoved down my throat. And there is a ton of it in this movie. Ghidorah is now God, apparently. And for being a god, he does not put up much of a fight. Mothra is barely in this movie. Like, I could just imagine, like, on the poster, just like the little whisper in the corner that's just like, Mothra. And that is it. If you're watching this movie expecting to see some awesome Mothra and King Ghidorah action or any other monster, you will be disappointed. This is your warning. If you ignored the spoiler warning from before. Godzilla raids again. Not the best way to follow up a really substantial film like Gojira. It definitely felt rushed. Everyone can agree on that. It did feel rushed. I did like some of the fight scenes between Anguirus and Godzilla, but not very many of them. Godzilla, it constantly annoyed me that they kept calling him Angulus for some reason. They kept confusing his name with Angulus. And they also called him Gigantus. And for some reason, except for like the very first scene and maybe the very last scene, throughout the rest of the movie, Godzilla has Anguirus's roar. You don't hear the classic Godzilla roar except for the very first scene and the very last scene. If I'm remembering it right. It might only be the very last scene. Yeah, it's just not... It was just very annoying, those few things. Number 27, Godzilla. Now, yeah, this is not the worst movie in the world. It's not a great movie, but it's not the worst. Godzilla actually doesn't look that bad, CG-wise, for the time. Matthew Broderick is... he doesn't really convince me of anything in any of his performances. Like that one scene where they find out that the tape got stolen from his tent and is now on the news, and he's like, no, I didn't give her the tape. No, it's in my tent right now. Oh my god. Oh my god, she took it. Like, it is not convincing whatsoever. But anyway, Godzilla. It's not a bad monster design, and I can see where they were coming from in the transition between the classic Godzilla and this. But it's definitely not a good Godzilla design. Everyone can agree on that. Pretty disappointing revamp of the Godzilla franchise by America. Score 1 for Japan. Destroy All Monsters. I really didn't find that interesting. Like, obviously the best part is at the end when they're all fighting Ghidorah at once. That was that was a good fight scene, but I don't think it was worth how boring the rest of the movie was. Especially with the aliens trying to take over the world. You see that a lot in this series. If you're watching this series for the first time, expect to see a lot of aliens in the Showa series especially. It got good when the monster fighting happened, but there isn't a lot of it. Godzilla Final Wars. Speaking of not a lot of monster fighting, there is a lot of monster fighting in this, but there's more human fighting, probably twice or 3 times as much. Godzilla wants to be the Matrix now. I understand that, like, it's Godzilla's 50th anniversary. It's not supposed to be taken that seriously. The story doesn't really matter. It's about seeing Godzilla take on a bunch of monsters. And I can get behind that if every single fight wasn't a minute or 2 long. Except for the last one with Gigan, Monster X, who turns into Kaiser Ghidorah. That fight was really good. I think it was done pretty perfectly for the time for the movie. But the rest of the fights were just way too short to ever, like, leave that much of an impression. Obviously, it's, like, the Zilla one makes sense. Like, it's Japan saying, like, oh, look how much your Godzilla sucks. And that was an enjoyable scene. It's not a bad movie, by any means. It just doesn't do that much. It doesn't do as much as it says it does, or as it wants you to think it does, in terms of monster fighting. Like I said, there's a ton more human fighting, and it's fine. It would have been better in a different franchise, not Godzilla.